They always tell you that you should never, ever climb the stairs you find in the woods. I didn't listen. And now I think I brought something back with me. I used to love hiking by myself. The peace, the quiet, that feeling of being the only person for miles around. But that all changed a month ago. I found a staircase in the middle of a national forest. I shouldn't have just turned back, but I didn't. And now, I don't think I'll ever be alone again. And it started out like any other solo trip. I had a long weekend, a forest I'd never explored, and a pack with everything I needed to be on my own for 3 days. There's this specific kind of freedom you get from that. It's just you and the trail. The first day was perfect. The air was crisp, the trail had a good challenge to it, and I made great time. By late afternoon, I was deep in the woods. I am talking at least 10 miles from any road or a hint of civilization. I've always been a skeptic. Of course I've heard the stories. For years, the internet's been buzzing with tales from people claiming to be search and rescue officers who find these bizarre, freestanding staircases deep in the wilderness. They're a classic on those creepypasta forums. Stories posted to places like Reddit's Nosleep, where everyone pretends the fictional horror stories are real. The legend always says the SAR officers are warned to never go near them, and whatever you do, don't climb them. I'd read the stories. I'd seen the supposed photos. Most of them just looked like the last bits of an old building, like a house or a fire tower rotted away and left nothing but stone or concrete steps behind. A perfectly logical explanation. That's all I figured it was, people getting spooked in the woods and letting their imaginations get the best of them. Not for a second did I believe it was real. That evening I set up camp in a little clearing, got a fire going, and had dinner. The forest was humming with the usual sounds, crickets, small animals rustling around, the wind in the pines. It was peaceful. I remember just leaning back against my pack, looking up at the stars, and feeling completely at ease. I didn't know it was the last time I'd ever feel like that. The next morning, I decided to head off trail. I'd seen a small, unnamed lake on my map a few miles north, and I wanted to check it out. The going was slow. The woods were dense, and I was pushing through ferns and climbing over mossy logs. I was heading down a slope, sliding a little on the damp ground, when all the sound just cut out. It wasn't a gradual fade. It was instant. 1 second the forest was alive. The next, there was this absolute, heavy silence. The kind of quiet that has a weight to it, that you can feel pressing on your eardrums. That was the first thing that felt truly, deeply wrong. I froze, just listening. No birds, no bugs, not even the wind, just nothing. And that's when I saw it. About 50 yards ahead, in a small, weirdly clear patch of the forest, was a staircase. It was exactly like the stories. It was made of this dark, polished wood, the kind you'd see in some old mansion, and it went up about 15 feet before ending at a small platform to nowhere. There was no sign of a building, no rubble, nothing to suggest anything had ever been attached to it. Even stranger was its condition. It was spotless. No leaves, no dirt, not a speck of moss on it. It looked like it was built yesterday. My first thought had to be, what? Is this some kind of art installation? It was the only thing that made sense. But who would drag this all the way out here, miles from any trail? The skeptic in me was fighting with this primal fear that was starting to crawl up my spine. I remembered all those warnings from the stories. Don't go near them. Don't climb them, but I'm an idiot. My curiosity was like an itch I just had to scratch. It's just a weird piece of art, I told myself. I had to see it up close. I had to know. I started walking toward it, slowly. The silence was still total, but with every step, this low hum started vibrating up through the soles of my boots. A bass note I felt more than I heard. I got to the bottom of the stairs and stopped. I reached for the railing, then hesitated. Every single instinct in my body was screaming at me to run, but the rational part of my brain, the part that had hiked alone for years without a single problem, pushed me on. It's just wood, I told myself. It's just a weird thing someone built, and I put my foot on the first step. The second my weight hit the wood, that humming got more intense. It was like standing on a giant, purring engine. I took another step, and then another. The air got cold and sharp, and I felt this weird pressure building in my head, like when you're in a plane that's climbing too fast. Halfway up, I stopped and looked out. The forest looked off. The colors were dull, and the edges of the trees were blurry, like a picture that's just slightly out of focus. That feeling of being somewhere I shouldn't be was overwhelming. I felt like I was trespassing in a profound way. I should have gone back down. I know that now, but I was so close to the top. Just a few more steps. I forced my legs to move, my heart hammering against my ribs, each beat echoing way too loud in the dead silence. I made it to the platform and just stood there, breathing hard. There was nothing. Just a flat, wooden square looking out into a silent, graying forest. A wave of disappointment washed over me, immediately followed by this icy dread. The world felt thin up here, fragile. I turned to go back down, and that's when I heard it. From the forest floor right below me, A single, heavy footstep crunched on the leaves. It was the first real sound I'd heard since the silence started, and it was horribly close. I froze, staring down into the trees, trying to see what made it. I saw nothing. I took a cautious step down. In response, another footstep came from below, perfectly mimicking mine, but heavier, deeper. I scrambled down the next 2 steps, thumped up. The sounds followed, keeping perfect time with my panic. I didn't look again. I just flew down the rest of the stairs, my feet barely touching the wood. The second I hit the ground, I ran, and the footsteps ran with me. Heavy, plodding, right at my heels. I could hear branches cracking, the sound of something huge moving through the brush way too fast. I didn't look back. I was terrified of what I might see. I crashed through the woods, branches slashing at my face, my lungs on fire. The footsteps stayed right behind me, a constant, terrifying drumbeat chasing me all the way back to the main trail. And the second my boots hit that familiar path, the sounds just stopped. As suddenly as the silence had started, the chase was over, as if whatever it was couldn't or wouldn't cross that line. I just stood there, gasping for air, listening. Slowly, the normal sounds of the forest faded back in. The birds, the bugs, the wind. It was like nothing ever happened. Hey, this is why I'm telling my story. So many people have had these experiences, and the comment sections are full of them. If you've ever seen something in the woods that you just can't explain, or if this sounds familiar to you, share your experience below. Subscribe for more, because I have to talk about what happened next. I need people to know, or I didn't stop running until I was back at my campsite. I tore it down in a frenzy, just stuffing my tent and sleeping bag into my pack with shaking hands. I didn't care how messy it was. I just had to get out of there. The whole hike back to the car was a blur of paranoia. Every shadow looked like a tall, dark figure. Every gust of wind sounded like a person whispering. I felt like I was being watched the entire time. When I finally made it to my car, locked the doors, and slammed the engine on, the relief was so intense it almost made me sick. I drove for 2 hours with the radio off, just gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles were white. I just wanted the normal, boring silence of my own home. The first night back was fine. I was so exhausted I just collapsed into a dreamless sleep. I told myself it was all in my head, that the stress and isolation had cooked up some kind of waking nightmare, that the stairs were just a prank. But on the second night, it started. I was in bed, right on the edge of sleep, and I heard a floorboard creak in the hallway. I live alone. I shot bolt upright, my heart pounding. I listened, but there was nothing else. I tried to tell myself it was just the house settling, but my house has never made that noise. The next night, it was a shadow in the corner of my eye, just a flicker of movement in the living room as I walked past. I whipped my head around to look, but of course, nothing was there, but I could feel a presence. It was the same exact feeling I had at the top of those stairs, that feeling of being an intruder in my own space. It's been a month now, and the strange things have become a nightly thing. The soft sound of heavy footsteps in the hall, my name being whispered from right behind me when I know no one is there. And the worst part is the tall, slender shadow I sometimes see in the reflection of the TV screen after I've turned it off, a shape that doesn't feel human. It didn't stay in the woods. I brought it home with me. Conclusion: I was a skeptic. I really thought the stories about staircases in the woods were just that, stories, creepy campfire legends for the internet age. They're not. There's a reason those stories all warn you not to climb. It's not about portals to another dimension or gates to hell, like some of the wilder theories claim. I think it's simpler, and somehow, so much worse. When you climb those stairs, you get noticed. You step into a place you don't belong, and you invite whatever lives there to step into yours. You cross a line. And some things, once they've crossed over, they don't go back. That day ruined hiking for me. It ruined the quiet. So please, if you're ever out there, deep in the woods, and you see a staircase to nowhere, don't be an idiot like me. Turn around and walk away. Don't even look back. Because some things, once they see you, will never stop looking.